Chapter 19. Growing Food, Farmer's Story. Food items are obtained from plants or animals. But can they be eaten as such? No, most of them cannot be eaten as such. The fact is that they have to be processed before we eat them. Their processing involves a lot of hard work and labor. We eat a variety of food every day. We have toasts or chapatis, idli and halwa for breakfast. What is a loaf of bread made of? Wheat flour, indeed. What is an idli made of? It is made of rice and dal. Where does wheat and rice come from? Let us explore. Various stages of farming. Preparing the soil. The soil is prepared before seeds are sown. It is loosened by a plough to allow air and water to pass through. This process is known as ploughing or tilling. Earlier it used to be pulled by humans and then by cattle like oxen and bullocks. It took weeks to plough the entire field. Nowadays, ploughing of soil is done with the help of tractors. A tractor is a powerful motor vehicle. It moves very slowly, ploughing the soil with teeth in the front. After the soil is ploughed, it is leveled. This is done to break large chunks of dry soil into small pieces. Leveling is done with the help of a harrow. This is another agricultural implement used mostly by attaching it to a tractor. It is made up of a wooden or metal framework which bears metal discs or teeth. Sowing seeds. After the soil is ready, seeds are sown using a seed drill. A seed drill consists of long vertical tubes with a funnel-shaped structure at the top. The seed drill is attached to a plough and seeds are filled in it. As the plough moves in the field, the seeds are sown. Irrigation. Water is very important for the growth of plants. Different crops require different amounts of water. For example, rice requires a lot of water, wheat requires less, and millets, an even lesser amount. Irrigation is the process by which enough water is supplied to the growing crops. Wells, tube wells, ponds, lakes, rivers, dams and canals are the various sources of irrigation. Earlier, farmers used to depend on the monsoon for irrigation, but rains are very erratic. Sometimes, it rains heavily, ruining the crops, while on some other occasion, there is drought. Hence, there was a need to develop a proper irrigation system. Traditional methods of irrigation involve pulling water from wells and canals and irrigating the fields. Old techniques of pulling water from the well are moat, which uses a pulley to draw water and irrigate the fields, chain pump, dhekli and rahat. Irrigation in modern times is easier with the construction of dams. Water from dams is carried by canals. Water sprinkler is also used for irrigation. Pipes having rotating nozzles on the top are attached to the main pipeline. Water is pumped through the main pipe. A jet of water comes out of the nozzles and gets sprinkled on the crops. Adding fertilizers. Manures and fertilizers are added to the soil to add nutrients to the crops. during their growth. Pesticides and insecticides are also sprayed on the crops to destroy pests. Pests are organisms that destroy crops. Natural insecticides like neem leaves are also used to prevent the damage of seeds by insects. Harvesting. Harvesting is the process of gathering mature crops from the fields when ripe. After cutting the crop, grain is separated from the stalk. Machines like combine harvester is used to harvest the crop these days. Earlier, the process was carried out manually. Traditionally, harvesting or reaping is the cutting of the crop using a scythe, sickle or reaper. Then, the grain is separated from the stalk. This is done by threshing. Threshing is the loosening of grains or seeds from the husks and straw. Threshing may be done by beating the grain using a flail on a threshing floor. This is followed by the process of cleaning through winnowing. The farmer sells the crop to buyers. A crop like wheat is ground in a flour mill to make flour. After that it is packed in bags and then marketed. This flour is then used to prepare bread, bun and chapatis. Do you know many different dishes can be made from the same grain? Similarly, rice grain is used to make idli, kheer, pulav, biryani and fivni. Some primitive agricultural instruments still in use. Plough is used to dig and cultivate the soil to prepare it for sowing seeds. Spade and hoe are used to dig and turn the soil. Rake and plank are used to level the land. Plank is pulled by oxen. Harrow is used to break up large lumps in soil. Sickle or scythe are used to cut the crop at the time of harvest. Types of crops. Crops grown for food are called food crops. Cereals like wheat, rice, maize, oats. Pulses like beans, grams, pea. Oil seeds like mustard, sunflower, and other crops like sugarcane are examples of food crops. Crops grown for commercial purposes are called cash crops. Jute, cotton, rubber, sugarcane, cashew and most plantation crops are cash crops in India. A plantation is a large farm or estate where crops are grown for the sale in distant markets rather than for local consumption. Such crops include cotton, coffee, tobacco, sugarcane, sesame, and various oil seeds and rubber trees. Such crops are called plantation crops. Tea is grown in tea gardens, while fruits in orchards. Horticulture deals with growing vegetables, fruits, flowers and ornamental plants. Crops based on seasons. Crops require different climatic conditions to grow and complete their life cycle. Based on seasons, crops are classified as Rabi and Kharif. Rabi crops. These are the crops which are sown in the beginning of the winter season and harvested in the spring season. The Rabi crop is also called the spring harvest or the winter crop. Major Rabi crops are wheat, barley, pea, mustard and sesame. Kharif crops. Kharif crops are usually sown with the beginning of the first rain in July, during the southwest monsoon season and are harvested in October. The Kharif crop is also called the autumn harvest or monsoon crop. Major Kharif crops are millets, bajra and jowar, paddy, rice, maize, green gram, moong, groundnut, red chilies, cotton, soya bean, sugarcane, turmeric and sesame. Indian farmers. Majority of India's population lives in villages. Most of them are farmers. An Indian farmer is very hardworking. He takes his plough and his cattle and goes to his field even before it is full daylight. His life is full of difficulties. We find him working on his field sowing, ploughing or reaping in the biting cold of winter as well as in the hot winds of summer. In spite of his hard labor, he lives a life of extreme poverty. He is born in debt, lives in debt, and dies in debt. His crops are at the mercy of rains. Famines or floods often take away his harvest. There are evidences of suicides by farmers in many states. To make a farmer's life happier and healthier, the government is taking some important steps. In 2008, the government announced a $15 billion waiver of loans for the farmers. Scientific methods of agriculture are being introduced to improve their condition. The Jawahar Rozgar Yojana was launched to improve the condition of life of the rural poor. The institution of Panchayati Raj seeks to give power to the people to work out their own destiny. The central government has promised that the loans of the farmers up to 10,000 would be waived off. Good quality seeds, fertilizers and pesticides are being provided to him. Moreover, pumpsets and tractors have now become a common sight in rural areas. It is heartening to see that improvements are taking place on a regular basis. World Bank. Food crops, crops grown for food. Cash crops, crops grown for commercial purposes. Plantation. A large farm or estate where crops are grown for sale in distant markets rather than for local consumption. Horticulture, practice of growing vegetables, fruits, flowers and ornamental plants. Rabi crops. Crops sown in the winter and harvested in the spring. Kharif crops. Crops usually sown with the beginning of the first rain during the southwest monsoon season and harvested in autumn. In a nutshell, food crops, cash crops, and plantation crops are different types of crops. Based on seasons, crops are classified as Rabi and Kharif crops. Plough, spade and hoe, rake and plank, harrow, sickle or scythe are some of the tools that were used in the earlier times. Preparing the soil, sowing seeds, irrigation, adding fertilizers and harvesting are various agricultural practices.